There's a quiet moment many of us recognize, the moment we realize our voice has grown softer in our own life. Not because we chose silence, but because somewhere along the way we learned obedience felt safer than truth. Today, we are exploring the invisible vow we all take and how reclaiming your inner compass can become a profound act of healing. Welcome to Healing Horizons, a space for inclusive, hopeful conversations about growth, awareness, and inner restoration. I am Yusuf, and today I'm joined by Toni LaMotta, a highly regarded spiritual coach, master teacher, and internationally acclaimed speaker who has spent decades guiding people back to their inner authority. Our conversation centers on the vows we all take, reclaiming your inner compass, and what becomes possible when we begin listening to ourselves again with honesty and compassion. With that, I welcome my guest, Dr. Toni LaMotta, to the show.
Thank you, Yusuf. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Many people assume vows are always formal or conscious, spoken promises made out loud. From your experience, what's a misconception people have about vows that are actually they're actually living by?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I did take formal vows of obedience because I'm a former Catholic nun for 16 years. But what I came to realize as I began teaching people some of these principles is that
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a formal vow. Many people take vow all of us actually take vows to things like our family expectations. We become what the family has, designed us to be, or it could be a company's culture or a relationship. Very often in a relationship, somebody's voice gets smaller as they listen to the other person or to some version of yourself that looked good on paper and you just kept following it. Maybe there was a vow to perfectionism. Some people need to do everything perfectly or to people pleasing. That's another big one. There are people who, and these are not things we do consciously. These kinds of what I'm calling vows are promises we make to ourselves unconsciously. There are people who go around believing everybody else in the world knows better than they do. That's kind of a vow that they take too. So, uh, that's what I'm looking at. Every single one of us, we can look at what is the thing that's keeping us quiet, keeping us small, keeping us from really listening to that inner voice that can guide all of our actions. So I just invite people to consider what vow have you taken?
You know, that's such a powerful reframe because vows can be invisible agreements we absorb rather than consciously choose.
Absolutely. And most of them are actually. There are not too many people who actually take vows, although, certainly wedding vows or in my case in a convent but most people take those silent kind of vows. And I think they're actually more hideous because the vows we take openly, we know what we're getting into, or we think we do anyway. But these other things are kind of creep in. And, I believe that every single person has some kind of wounding in childhood. And it doesn't have to be traumatic, but just being little in a big person's world is kind of a trauma, for little children. And so every one of us, that's how our ego develops. Science has shown us that the the ego is developing from the time in the womb up till about 5 years old, where we're making, decisions without recognizing them. And we make a decision on this is the way I better live. I better be perfect or my parents won't love me or this is how to be successful. And, we all make those decisions and they're different for every one of us, but they're powerful. Mhm.
Okay, so these vows are made because of our childhood experience, family systems. Are there any other reasons as well?
Well, as we go along, even, depending on the personality that's developed, whether or not we start listening to everybody else around us. There are I teach something called the Enneagram. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, that it's a spiritual tool and a personality tool. And it's very powerful and it's been studied since ancient times and from the Greeks and the early days and all of the different religions have studied it. Excuse me. And the idea is that there are 9 different basic personality types that get developed as a result of those woundings. And so, we can't escape it. We all come into the world with perfection. We all come from the divine, knowing that we are absolutely have everything whole. And then something happens, and so we make a decision, and we make it science has shown us that make it along those 9 lines and different and so for some people, it's like, "I better be needed. I have to take care of everybody else's needs," or for some people is, "I'm not important. I don't count. Everybody else should come first." For some people, it's, "I don't want any pain. I better be happy all the time." And the kind of people I'm talking about mostly are and this is the largest part of the population is, I better watch out because the next shoe is gonna drop. And so they're constantly on the alert, looking for, what's gonna happen next. They're anticipating what could go wrong. Now they're a gift. I mean, those people are a real gift in corporations, especially, they want to see every side of the picture. So every one of these personalities, they're not flaws. They're vows we take help us in some ways, but they also are an obstacle. And until you become conscious of them, they are more obstacle than they are help. So
What
it's becoming aware. That's it. That's it. I mean, healing, you're all about healing on this podcast, and it really is awareness is what begins the healing process.
what I am hearing is that these wars often start as protection. They once helped us belong or stay safe, even if they later cost us our voice.
Absolutely, and they all were and that's why when people study personality theory, most people see it as negative, and they see, "Oh my god, this is what's wrong." No, it's the way you're trying to compensate, and the way you're trying to get back to what was your wholeness, and so it's not a matter of fixing anything in ourselves, it's a matter of reclaiming that wholeness. So when you understand how you got fixated, how you got, what beliefs that you picked up along the way and what vows you made, then you can make those changes. And the changes happen simply by becoming aware. It's like you become aware usually after, you get triggered and like, oh gosh, there it went again. But then after a while, you start noticing it, like, right at the moment, and that so you get better and better at it, and then you stop it before it happens, and none of that is hard work. It's simply awareness can be hard work, but it is basically becoming aware of those patterns, so the more you recognize the pattern, rather than put yourself down and say, what's wrong with me? It's like, now I see the path to wholeness. No.
When someone begins to sense that their inner compass is off, what's a gentle first step toward reclaiming it?
I like to tell people to start noticing energies, you have a very delightful energy. I met you 2 seconds ago, and I already can see, here's a happy person who is, really here supporting other people. I see that right away, just looking at your smile, looking at your face. And so I invite people to start doing that with their pets, with even their plants. Plants kind of have a personality, and start noticing the energy in the room. When you walk in a room, sometimes you can feel that tension that's already there, or sometimes you can feel the celebration in the air. So, one of the ways of getting familiar with this is simply to again become aware, start noticing, and even define. One of my teachers is a woman named Sonia Choquette, who is a brilliant intuitive, and she teaches you that there are two voices. One is your spirit, and the other she calls your barking dog. And so, and I do this exercise with my coaching clients and say, let's name your spirit and let's name your barking dog, so that when that voice goes off and says, oh, you should do this or this is wrong, or ask, which voice is this? And you actually become very accustomed to it. So that's kind of a fun way of beginning, but it's also extremely helpful to start noticing.
Mm. And as people start breaking old vows and choosing differently, self doubt or fear often shows up. What helps someone stay grounded when the old patterns try to pull them back?
So it's in just ways of coming to present and there. Again, this is super simple. It is simply to get in touch with your breath and feel the section in your body. When you start to do that and literally ground yourself, feel your feet on the floor, feel your heartbeat, if you will, and start noticing. And when you do that, you're in what we call presence, and it takes away fear. The other thing that I like to teach people to do is to make friends with your fear, to actually speak to it and say, look, I know you're here. What's your message for me? What are you trying to protect me from? So then fear becomes an ally rather than an enemy. So it's quite interesting when we recognize we're in control. We're not driven by our emotions. And fear is simply fear is usually, a bodily reaction. So just notice it, feel it, acknowledge it. And when you acknowledge it, it often goes right away. It
Mm.
just wants to be seen. If you've got a bear chasing you, you got to do something about it. So fear can be very helpful. But if it's simply about something that's not even happening yet, I have a friend who's always worried about, is he going to have enough money for the future? And all I keep saying, and he's learning to stop and say, today, do I have what I need right now? Yeah, of course I do. Roof's over my head. The food's in the fridge. I'm good. So then we can let go of that fear. If it's not present, oh, let's not deal with it.
Yeah. Ma'am, are there any ways that our listeners can connect with you?
Oh, there's lots of ways. Probably the simplest thing to do is to go to my website, ToniLaMotta.com, and the spelling is ToniLamotta.com. And there you can sign up to get a copy of, I have a quiz that you can take about how good is my inner compass? How much do I pay attention to it? And that'll come as a free gift, and then you'll be on a mailing list and you can hear about all the other programs that I'm doing. Uh, I have a 6-month program for someone who really wants to go deep and learn how to listen. I teach everything I've ever learned. So you'll find out about that by simply getting on the mailing list would be very helpful right now.
Wonderful. All these links are in the show notes. And is there an lasting message that you want to leave us with?
No, just to I think that my biggest message to people is don't take it so seriously. Make this fun. Try to take a look at, instead of like, oh, I'm not listening, I don't know. Simply say, what can I do to make this fun? How can I listen a little bit more? And then even you might want to start recording or saying out loud, my guidance is speaking, and this is what it's saying. Because the more you do that, the more it will speak.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for spending this time with us on Evening Horizon.
Thank you, Yusuf. It's been a pleasure.
You know, and to all my listeners, may today's conversation invite you to listen a little more closely to your body, your intuition, and the quiet wisdom within. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who may be finding their way back to themselves. And join us again as we continue exploring paths of healing, clarity, and hope.